put this disclaimer out there. In no way, shape, or form are we saying these guys are going to get traded. You're going to know by the end of this show whether or not we think it would be worth exploring or not, which, in my opinion, anyone on the last year of their contract is worth exploring a trade. If you get maximum value back, that's awesome. If you don't plan on extending them, if you let them walk, of course, you're going to take the chance of getting a comp pick as well. So, but these are just some players that, spoiler alert, I think the large majority, if not all these players, Emilio, I would probably be saying I would rather have them on the roster this year because they're a key contributor to the Packers. However, we're going to kind of make the case as well for potentially trade. And so let's start with the first one here, okay? Romeo Doubs. Keep in mind, per his camp earlier this year, right, he was offered in an attempt to acquire wide receiver DK Metcalf. Now, if you're going, how do you know that, Clayton? I think it was Justice Mosquito, if I'm saying that name right, had said that Romeo Doubs' camp shared the information that he was included in a trade package for DK Metcalf. That's the way I understood that reporting. Several people tagged me in the tweets, and it actually came from Justice's, his actual Twitter, his actual mouth, to be honest with you. I think he was on with Andy Herman talking about that. So anyone who says, oh, they'd never trade Romeo Doubs, it's kind of common knowledge they already tried to, okay? At least that's
or at least thought about it, potentially.
Exactly. So rumors are beginning to swirl again as we inch closer to the roster cut down deadline. Now, whether you believe NFL rumors or not, that's cool. I understand if you're skeptical. I got you. There's no source here. They got damn near 400,000 followers. I think they just grab rumors on Twitter and try to find a reasonable account that's mentioning this stuff, and they talk about it, right? But this was a tweet, I guess, roughly 20 hours ago, right? NFL rumors. Wide receiver Romeo Doubs could be a cut candidate after the preseason or a trade. Okay, so again, he was already shopped around. Now, if you search Romeo Doubs on X right now, there are several people that are saying this team, and this team has asked about Romeo Doubs. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Okay, now let's talk about what his value is here. Okay, and to start it off, Emilio, I think his market value here, right? According to Spot Track, 11.9 million average annual value. If we had not spent all the draft capital that we have here lately on wide receivers, i.e. Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, you still got Dontavion Wicks for 2 more years, right? You got Jaden Reed for 2 more years. You got Christian Watson you might potentially be looking to extend as well. To me, it kind of feels like you've got to choose one of those two, Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs. I know this. If we could get Christian Watson on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, he shows, hey, the knee's healthy, has a decent year, and you can get him back to somewhere around this money and not upwards of $30 million per type thing, man, that sounds like a pretty good go at it there. But when it comes to Romeo Doubs here, just a couple other nuggets I want to get your take. PFF grade-wise, came in the league in 2022, 62.6. 2023 jumped to a 73.6. Last year, he fell back to a 69.7. Again, what you're seeing there is a very steady player, though, Emilio. Even from his rookie year, we always talk about if you grade out in the 60s your rookie year, pretty good indicator you're going to be a solid pro football player. So you kind of got a floor of somewhere in the 63 range and so far a ceiling in the 73. If he's going to perform at the 73 mark, he's probably worth more, a little closer to like 15 million per.
Right. Especially being consistent with the hands that he has. I mean, that's a wide receiver that you can use in the NFL. That's somebody that you can go to consistently. I think that I like that he's had a steady climb, a little bit of a drop, but he was out for a game or two this past year, had the concussion, fighting through some injuries. So I'm really hoping that, we can see something out of him, even if it's not for the Packers in the future. If we can get something from him this year, he's already kind of approached it that way with helping the young guys getting, helping them in the locker room, working through what they see, progressions, all that. But even if he does it for himself and just get better so that he can make some money for him and his family, long term, any good production for us this year will help him with that and the Packers. So.
Yep. And shout out to Martin in the chat. Said this is a great Packers channel, man. Go Pack Go from a fellow Tennessee man, LOA. Thanks, Martin. Appreciate you, buddy. Glad to see somebody understands when I speak cornbread around here. You know what I mean?
We love cornbread, but Clayton speaks it a lot.
HTE in the chat says, say a tweet last night that saw a tweet last night that suggested that Doubs was a cut candidate, complete and utter monkey-ish. Yeah, in terms of a cut, let's do it this way. Let's explore that for a second. Let's say everybody is healthy in the wide receiver room. Okay. Let's say everybody's healthy. And I know they're not.
About Christian a lot. We've been trying to work that cut, Clay. What do you got?
So let's look at it. You've got Mecole Hardman, Jaden Reed, not in no particular order. This is just in order of their PFF grade last year, okay? Mecole Hardman, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavion Wicks, Malik Heath, Julian Hicks, Kawan Baker, Isaiah Nayer, Will Shepard, Savion Williams, Matthew Golden, Cornelius Johnson. Let's start with the rookies. They're making this roster, right? Savion Williams, Matthew Golden. There's 2.
Yep.
Dontavion Wicks will make the roster. That's 3. Jaden Reed definitely going to make the roster. That's 4. Romeo Doubs over Mecole Hardman all day long and twice on Sunday, in my opinion. Right? So there's your 5 if you want to break camp with 5. However, we know there are some injuries right now, okay? So let's put that on the back burner. With the 5 I just mentioned, would you be okay with, to the point, would you be okay with Mecole Hardman and let's say Malik Heath, both of those guys, enough that you would go, let's just cut Romeo Doubs? I know I wouldn't. I want Romeo to be on this team if there's no draft capital coming back. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we're just cutting him to get rid of him, I don't see it. I don't think it's dead weight because of that connection he has with Jordan. I think that's kind of special what they have. They've been working for years beyond just the, Jordan starting years. So I'm more leaning towards keeping Rome, keeping that consistency and just that timing aspect is some of that stuff that we wouldn't be able to accumulate the amount of routes they've ran together versus bringing somebody in like Mecole or even Malik. It's not that I don't like Malik, but he doesn't have that timing with Jordan on, hey, I want a back shoulder here. Like the little things with Rodgers he had with his receivers.
I think it's very well said. Jay Cole in the chat said all of these injuries at receiver, I would keep Rome for now. And that's the thing, too. Like, even if everyone was healthy, Jay, we're sitting there looking at it like, boy, it don't make sense to cut Romeo. It doesn't. Now, if a team comes calling, what would be the draft capital you'd be willing to accept for that? You know what I mean? Because he is in the final year of his deal. He earned the performance escalator, okay, the first tier. So what his cap hit probably would have been somewhere around $1.3 million. Instead, it jumps to $3.5 million this year, okay, because of the fact that I think it's according to stats or snaps, and I believe there's some statistical escalator there as well. I'm not 100% sure, but nonetheless, what would it take? What would it take? And you go, okay, I'll trade Romeo for that, because anyone who says he's not worth a pick, I think that's an exaggeration, simply because look at his market value. His market value is sitting at damn near $12 million. Mm-hmm. So he's got to have some kind of trade value there. So if a team came calling Emilio, what would it take where you go, I'd trade him for that? And where's the cutoff there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say we at least got to double what we got him for. We got him for a 4th. So I would say I need at least a 2nd out of it. And probably another pick as well, a 2 and a 3, or a 2 and 2 4s or something like that. If we get a 1st, then I'd probably run it up there. If we're looking at numbers wise, they give us a 1st and like a 2nd or a 3rd. I mean, that's kind of tough just because, but again, if he's had an injury here and there, but Rome's been pretty consistent besides, that little flare up. He's been out there for the team. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Where would you be?
I don't see any scenario where they would get a 2. I think it's a stretch to say we would get a potential 3. If someone came knocking for a 3rd rounder, that's where I would be. It's kind of like the whole, if you'll remember the Rasul Douglas trade, right? None of us were happy about the Rasul Douglas trade, but Goody seen it like that's a high enough pick. We got to take that offer. I could see a 3rd rounder being worth it with Romeo if you don't plan on re-signing him. Because if you don't re-sign him, that's the other thing too, though. If a team does go out and sign him, and let's say you're not overly active in free agency, you could potentially get a 3rd round comp pick for him that way. So when you look at it from that angle, you're getting that extra year of service. However, that comp pick, I think that will fall on the next draft, not 2026, but 2027, I believe is how that works. Mm-hmm. So That's something you got to take into consideration. But just theoretically speaking, a third rounder would do it for me. If someone came knocking and said, "Hey, we'll give you a third round pick," I would take that. I don't think a team is going to offer that. I really don't. I think they would probably be more willing to offer like a fifth or a sixth. And at that case, some people would say, "Well, if you're not going to re-sign him, yeah, go ahead and get it." I disagree with that because you're one or two injuries away from your receiving room really dwindling down quick.
We're already looking at it. We're already seeing we had four wide receivers walking into Colts practice. I mean, yeah, we got a couple weeks off coming up here, but if that happens during the regular season, once we get past cutdowns, I mean, we need to be ready to go.
Yeah. So for me, it would definitely be I'm leaning towards keep Doubs unless you get a third round pick. You get a third round pick, take it. So let's see what Joseph said here. Due to the poor health on our wide receiver room, I wouldn't trade him for a third right now. I can understand that stance too. I can, he says maybe next summer. Yeah. Next summer though, he gone, right? He gone after this year. So,
so we'd have to make the decision by week 8, right? By trade deadline.
Correct. Yeah. And this is more.
If not, then it would be comp pick depending on his contract.
The comp pick comes if they sign in free agency. So he has to make it the free agency. You understand what I'm saying? So let's say he plays out this year, he hits free agency, we don't re-sign him, and a team goes out and offers him $15 million per. Now they'll do this whole balance sheet thing of how many players did we pick up as opposed to how many people we lost, and that's where they determine is it worth a third rounder, a sixth rounder, or what have you. So they kind of balance it out. So yeah, that's how the comp picks work. That's very vague description, but yeah, that's kind of how that sits. So in terms of maybe next summer, Joseph, if you're talking about that, he's going to be gone by then, right? His contract will be up. Now, if you're saying try to sign him to an extension, then trade him, I don't like that because you're going to have to guarantee money to get him under contract, and then you're going to be facing some dead cap in that regard. So
Fishy things here said Doubs for a serviceable DB would definitely be a win, assuming the DB can play outside corner.
That's interesting. When you say serviceable, I imagine someone that's around his skill set, like around a 70 PFF grade, something like that. If PFF was everything, right? So maybe someone like, I'm trying to think of who would we consider serviceable. Maybe
Coach
another
Doubs for Greg Newsome,
something like that. I don't know enough about Greg Newsome right now.
Me neither.
The last I checked on Greg Newsome, I was not on that train of going and signing him. I know many Packer fans were, but. Yeah. You got Mike in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, I'm not trading any wide receiver. We need more, not less. Injuries are a 100 certainty at wide receiver. It's definitely one of the more banged up groups we got right now. And that's why I'm leaning towards, keep him,
Yeah, so Newsome was the cornerback for the Browns. 6 foot 190, came from Northwestern, and he was drafted in 21. They selected him in the first round of 21, but again, we have a first rounder in our linebacker group right now, and it seems like he's kind of hitting the slide a little.
And I was trying to compare like what would we consider serviceable in comparison to the corners that are on our team. Maybe somebody like a Keyshawn Nixon. That's one that I feel like, hey, that would be because I do feel like Romeo Doubs and Keyshawn Nixon are pretty close to being on the same level in terms of at their respective positions, I think Romeo's a little bit better than Keyshawn, but I'm eager to see what Keyshawn does on the outside because I feel like he did play a little bit better on the outside last year. Right. So somewhere around that range. But here's the thing, too. If you go do that, Carrington Valentine gets pushed down the depth chart even more, and you're really stopping that progress because Carrington was arguably our best cornerback last year, So that's why I'm more along the lines of third rounder or keep Rome. So